got a very special episode for you today. I'm going to expose the car industry and its ambiguous and some would say toxic relationship with the truth. Now, pulling the industry's pants down in such a comprehensive and wide-ranging way is clearly far too big a job for me alone. So I'm going to be joined by the team from ReDriven. Jim Hull, who is a Jedi master on the tools, and car nut motoring presenter and co-creator of ReDriven, Adam Morris. Now, brace for impact, because as you will soon see, both of these dudes are obviously far too clean-cut and likeable, but in spite of this, they've got real potential, and I am hoping to turn them around and ultimately have them join me over here on the dark side of motoring journalism. This is a two-parter, by the way. Links to the other industry untruth pants pull down reel will be in the description. Pretty safe to say, I think, that none of us is going to emerge from this topic without being more or less universally detested.
Car of the Year awards.
They're crap.
Yeah?
Like, make a list of all of the cars of the year. There's several different cars of the year now, obviously, and some of them are everyone wins a prize kind of thing. There are actually 15 cars of the year in all these different categories. If we just concentrate on like wheels and drive, where there's an overall winner, for example, if you make a list of all of those cars historically, just then go and filter them out and say which ones would it have been a great idea to buy. It's a pretty small list. Okay? The Chimera. The P76. It's just right if you had a, 44-gallon drum of toxic waste.
Collectible now, though.
They are.
My dad mentioned to me the other day, I can't remember the car, maybe he can, I'm not just going to say it. He's like, this got Engine of the Year and Car of the Year, and it's something that you've had to throw new engines in multiple times. And I'm like, when it's new, fantastic, it's probably great. But after the warranty period's out, it's got 150,000 Ks on it. The fact that there's multiple catastrophic engine failures and cooling systems that fall to pieces.
We should do a follow-up on all the cars of the years over the years. Where are they now?
It's a good idea. We should do that video.
Which ones would you like to own? Which ones should you have bought? Like, come on. The most recent Car of the Year award that I'm aware of is Drive's Car of the Year. They gave it to the Kia EV9 and they talked about it being the future of family-friendly zero-emissions motoring. And I'm going, how preposterously out of touch is that with families? Because here's a vehicle that costs you 130 grand for the one you want, and that's just cost of living pressure being what it is. How many families are going to be buying in the $130,000 ballpark?
I had a lady come up to me recently at a coffee shop and said, need some advice. They've currently got, I think the husband has like a GLC of some sort, and then she was in a Q5, and she said, we have to sell our cars. We've got a budget now of about $20,000 per car because their mortgage repayments has skyrocketed into hundreds of dollars. Cost of living is crazy. So you've got a family that live in quite a nice part of Sydney, 2 really nice cars, and they're feeling the pinch. I can't imagine they're going to race out and buy an EV9 for 130K.
Well, to me, it's like an award for irrelevance. Right, this current one is an award for irrelevance, but motoring journalists are not immune to jumping onto the EV evangelism kind of bandwagon, and I think there's a degree of that. But the cars of the year, it's almost like, advice for car buyers is, just make a list of cars of the year and don't buy one of those and you'll probably be okay. Right?
So I wonder if the EV9 are actually selling like hotcakes now that they made it Car of the Year.
I don't think it makes any difference.
No, it might have 20 years ago, possibly. But very irrelevant now.
Car of the Year made a big difference when the Australian automotive landscape was dominated by the American Big Three and the Japanese were just cutting in, But I think one of the biggest problems for all car makers, which they are spectacularly failing to address, is that cars are increasingly commodities. People don't give a shit what the brand is as long as it's big enough and it looks okay. And obviously you've still got performance enthusiasts who care about performance brands and prestige brands, and you've got the new group of environmental enthusiasts who want to be seen typically in a Tesla or something. But the average mainstream car buyer, he just wants a car that's going to get the family around and it's not going to break all the time. And I think there's...
Probably doesn't want to wait 6 months while it has been made and delivered.
Yeah, there's that.
Yep.
So the brand is increasingly irrelevant to mainstream car buyers, right? And car makers don't know how to deal with that.
No.
If you're on the fence about buying an EV, rooftop solar is almost certainly a better choice for you. And here are the top 5 reasons why. A premium solar system with a battery is only a fraction of the cost of even a budget EV. Solar adds value to your home, whereas EVs depreciate so fast. Solar is more effective as a climate change countermeasure. It divorces you from coal, which is the nation's biggest CO2 emitter. Solar plus a battery equals blackout protection if it's installed right, which is so useful in this world of increasing grid instability. Solar also pumps the brakes on extortionate electricity bill shock. And when you think about it in those terms, it's a pretty solid return on investment. If you've already got rooftop panels, you can just add a battery and that will slash your reliance on the grid. You can harvest the energy during the day, store it in the battery and use it in the evening when electricity is just so damn expensive. Go to autoexpert.com.au/solar or click the card that is up there now. Dude. Getting solar is dead easy. It's a solid solution to a problem that's only going to get worse.
I've been in the situation where I may have gone to a particular car launch and wrote some things about a car, and then my boss at the time pulled me into the office and said, you've got to change that because there's advertising money on the line here, and unfortunately had to change the entire narrative of a car that wasn't very good to being actually not too bad, because it was either that or see you later. I've experienced that. I know other guys have experienced that, young up-and-coming journalists. What's your history with this?
So what you're really talking about is bad incentives in journalism, right? Because I think most motoring journalists are not Hannibal Lecter hell-bent on, doing the wrong thing. But pragmatically, they're working dudes like everyone else who want a job tomorrow and don't want too many problems with senior executive management. So here's essentially what happens. You go on a launch and there's an expectation. It's all very friendly too, right? Like everyone in a car maker wants to be your friend, quote unquote friend, although being friends with a car maker is a little bit like being a friend of the earth. It's kind of hard to invite it over for dinner, right? Yeah. There's no barbecue on Sunday afternoon with a few beers, right?
Yeah.
So, but they want you to be their friend, because if you're friends with someone, you don't say bad things about them. And your job is to be a critic, which means that in addition to spelling out the 70% of the report, which is really just objectively true, like here's how big it is, here's how many seats it's got, here's what the engine's like, here's the fuel efficiency, whatever. In addition to that, you're supposed to say this car does this really well and it's also a bit shit at that, and that, whatever. And this is the area that they target. They don't want you to really go to town on. It's actually pretty mediocre at these things. So if you do that and they view it as excessive, and they are pretty sensitive about criticism, then the first thing is they ring you up and they say, I don't think that was very fair, right? And you can probably survive the first salvo of that. If you do it again, it's like, well, I don't think we can invite you on any more of our launches and we might not put you into our cars anymore. And that's a bit of a limitation for a motoring journalist if you can't drive the test cars. So there's that. Then if you do it again, if you decide to make it personal and do it again, then someone from the car maker, like the marketing director, will go and see the commercial director or the CEO of your publishing company and say, get this clown into line, otherwise we're pulling our ads. And that, having been in that situation a couple of times, once at Channel 7, where there was a particularly uncomfortable conversation with the marketing director of Holden, as I understand it. I wasn't privy to the conversation, I just heard about it later. Then, it's easier to cave in and just do the right thing, which is censor the shit out of yourself and tone back the criticism. You're writing your review, you sit there and you think, what's the car maker going to think if I say that? And if you're a journalist, you shouldn't be thinking that.
Yeah.
Right? You should be thinking only about the reader, the viewer, whatever, and what is valuable to them and is it fair? Not what's the car maker going to think.
Yeah.
Because you're not here for them,
Yeah.
right? You're actually promoting their product in some way by telling a group of people about it who might not otherwise be exposed to that information. So these are the bad incentives in advertising-based journalism models, because obviously if you're a new car channel, new car publication, then you are going to hit up every car company for advertising revenue. You're going to claim that heaps of buyers visit your site, buy your magazine, listen to your podcast, visit your channel, whatever, and you're going to want their advertising, and then therefore you're in a three-way, aren't you? And the model really doesn't work that way. Someone's got to suffer.
Yeah.
The person who suffers is the audience.
Yeah.
The consumer.
Yeah, 100%.
And it really is insidious the way this works. And, you know, the people who get invited on launches, and I've done the bridges at Dresden, 15 February 1945 on this. I burnt every bridge. The people who get invited are the safe choices because the PR manager does not want to get reamed out by the CEO. How could you have let this happen?
Yeah.
You know, if someone critical comes along.
Yeah.
So you end up seeing essentially the same group of sycophants going around all the time. And most of the reviews are accurate, right? Because most of the reviews are just objective facts.
Yeah.
You know, they run these tyres and it's got low range or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but the bit that really matters to a viewer who's on the cusp of buying a new car is what is it good at, comparatively speaking, and what is it bad at, comparatively speaking. You don't get this information from the car maker website. They'll only give you 100,000 reasons why their car is not only okay, but absolutely fucking excellent, right?
Yeah.
So you need a review to tell you what it's bad at.
Yeah.
And that's why the control of that end of the comment is so extreme.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like, Chris Harris got pulled into line by Ferrari for a while. You know, Chris Harris, one of the most celebrated motoring journalists, probably one of the most the biggest celebrity in that world. And Ferrari wouldn't give him press cards anymore because he said some nasty things about Ferrari. And I remember seeing that and going, oh man, imagine if that happened. And then it happened to me. And I can't help but feel it happened to me because I was younger at the time, new to motoring journalism, and the boss at the time knew he could have that over me. And also, I wanted more than anything to be a motoring journo. So I stupidly said, I'll go and change it. I wish I had the guts at the time to go, no.
It's super uncomfortable in that situation though, isn't it?
It was horrible. Yeah, I wish I felt like, and then when all the reviews came out, everyone else's reviews that were at the launch were relatively honest, but mine was quite glowing. And I looked like a dick because...
You overdid it.
Like I made it seem too good. So I'm like, my journalistic integrity's out the door.
I've been on both sides of this fence, right? I've towed the line forever. And in fact, when I was working for Wheels magazine, I did all these stories relating to Holden because you put a Holden on the cover of Wheels, it sells its tits off. That's how it used to roll. And every time I'd write a story about Holden, there was a girl in the PR team from Holden, she'd ring me up the day that the magazine came out, and it was just like a running joke. It's like, what have I got wrong this time?
Yeah.
You know? She'd have to take issue with something I said about them. And then when I burnt the bridges, right, there's smoke all around, it's like carnage. It's the most liberating thing ever because nobody ever rings up and says, we don't like that.
Yeah.
If they did, I'd go, yeah, I know, but I didn't write it for you, so...
Yeah, we've had motoring journalist mates...
Excommunicate you?
No, we've had both. I've turned up to something not that long ago and I had a bunch of guys literally turn their backs on me.
Oh, perfect.
Like literally, okay,
that
cool.
is the most sincere compliment.
But then on the flip side, we've had other guys reach out that really appreciate what we do with ReDriven, which is wonderful, but then also...
But you're not in a mad quest to be liked. If you're in a mad quest to be liked and you're a motoring journalist, or any sort of journalist, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah.
What about the people that accuse us of getting paid by Lexus and Toyota because we don't rag on the cars?
If only it was that easy.
But then you'll get another bunch of people that will also rag on us because apparently we're too harsh on Lexus and Toyota.
So I'm with Winston Churchill on this.
Yeah.
If someone hates you, that means you stood up for something.
Yeah.
Like, live it.
Yeah. We've had, back to the journalism thing real quick, I've had a few guys say in one way or another, it must be wonderful to be able to just say whatever you want. Like just to not have to think about the bigger picture of the commercial model here.
I've had several motoring journalists say to me, I wish I could say what you say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I used to joke all the time with Josh Dowling when he was at Drive about him being the second most hated motoring journalist in Australia, but he'd never get the gong, right? He'd never get the gold medal, right? And he used to love it. We're reasonably good mates, Josh and I. And he had this singular skill of knowing exactly where the line is and walking up to it and putting his toes over the line. It's fair to say he was detested from time to time by every car maker, but they kept inviting him back.
Yeah.
And that is a real skill.
Yeah, he is great. This whole concept that more horsepower and a better Nürburgring lap time is going to equate to a better car for you, again, utterly ridiculous. I think what a lot of people don't understand with, cars have a certain amount of traction. Obviously, there are powerful cars out there, but when you're flooring it, if you've got the safety systems turned on, which you should 100% have on, you're not actually getting all 600 horsepower to the ground. The electronics are sapping power out of that thing just to keep the tyres from spinning up.
But people don't get power, right? If you've got a 600 horsepower car, it'll be 600 horsepower at 6,000 RPM against a balancing load. It has to be those two things. It has to be, and wide open throttle, right? So it's got to be those three things, right? Balancing load, wide open throttle, and those revs. If you don't have those three things, you don't have 600 horsepower. So you can be at 6,000 RPM at wide open throttle. It won't be 6,000 horsepower unless you're up against a balancing load. That's why you got to do it on a frickin' dynamometer. The power output of an engine is probably the least interesting part of a performance car.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're never really utilising it, or if you are on a track, you're there for like 3 seconds, then you're on the brakes or changing gear or something.
If that,
So the power doesn't equate to fun either. Like
No, not at all.
No.
It's funny we're having this conversation in a room full of Porsches, by the way.
Well, that's right. And a lot of them are fun because they're fun because, like, a lot of old 911s are fun because they want to kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Get the engine out behind the back axle. That's fun.
Yeah.
In a certain scary concept.
Yeah.
But if you look at, for example, BMW M3 versus Hyundai i30N, on paper, there's no comparison. Right? M3 every time. Okay? What's more fun? i30N. Every time.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So
What's the price difference?
well, you probably have 3 i30Ns for the price of
Easily.
certainly 2 i30Ns and an i20N.
And you certainly don't have 3 times more fun in the Beamer.
No, that's right. So the law of diminishing returns, right? But the power output of a car is at best tenuously related to how much fun it is.
Also, even in a room of Porsches, I drove this GT4 a few days after a GT2 RS, which has got probably twice that horsepower. That's the more fun car. That was so much more enjoyable. The GT2 RS in the real world is ridiculous. That is not it's not fun. It's not a fun car.
The power figures just loop around to marketing anyway, really. It's just another marketing strategy, which is kind of irrelevant.
Dentists should use the GT2 as a loose filling detector.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd work.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We'll send you out for a scan.
Yeah.
Just scan around the block and then let me know which one hurts.
This is a massive lie. Price of parts or cost of parts between manufacturers when it is the exact same part.
And suppliers of the same product as well from certain car dealerships. There's one that comes to mind. There's a small hydraulic part of a Ranger and a BT50, the manual, where there's a little clutch part. You can get the same part from both manufacturers. You buy one, and I can't remember the exact prices. Let's say one was $100, the other was something like $300. It's the same part. And when we got the cheap one in the Mazda bag, you open the Mazda bag and there's a Ford bag inside.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds of dollars cheaper. We see this all the time, Things like...
did the customer then demand the genuine Ford part? That's
another thing. People do say, they say, look, I'd like to use genuine parts. And I had a conversation recently with someone, they wanted a water pump on their Volkswagen Golf, which we do every week. And they said they'd like a genuine part. And I said, you mean like the one we're taking off that's 50,000 Ks old? You want to put another one of those on? thinking that they were getting a better. I said, how about I say your non-genuine one that lasts twice as long? The look of disbelief is like, really? I'm not really.
The Nissan Koleos wheel hub story.
Well, yeah, that was another one. This is also a reflection on maybe the skill set in some dealerships. Apparently they went in and they, for some reason, couldn't get the wheel nuts off the thing because they claimed it had been over-tightened. And we'd done the service on it. So they promptly marched back to us saying, you've over-tightened the wheels and it's going to cost us thousands of dollars to get all these wheels.
How is that going to cost thousands of dollars?
Well, apparently...
And how do you over-tighten a wheel nut so that it can't be untightened?
Excellent question. But for some reason, they were quoted thousands of dollars because they needed to get 4 new wheel hubs. They were ex-France. The car was going to be off the road for 6 weeks. It was mind-blowing. And we put it on the hoist and we took the wheels off in probably 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And what we did see on one of the front wheels, someone had been trying to get the wheel off it with a wrong size wheel nut. The tool was, you could see it had been stripping on the nut. So I don't know, I'd love to have been in the dealership that day, from person working on the car to service department to angry customer to us. It was like...
It's an alloy wheel though, right?
Alloy wheel, yep.
Okay, so if you over-tighten a nut on an alloy wheel, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to stretch or break the stud, or you're going to spoil the shit out of the wheel.
Exactly.
Out of the boss on the wheel. And
neither of that was the case. They came off very easily.
Yeah. So dealership try and take advantage.
Dealership failed.
Yeah. Just on the parts difference price, we did some research this week on this.
That's a dangerous precedent.
I know.
Get around.
No. This is okay. Lamborghini Huracan Technica parking brake pad. Mm-hmm. Genuine Lamborghini OEM part for the pad, $695.
See, that doesn't surprise me.
$695.
It's a Lambo, of course it's going to be.
Lamborghini, yep. Sure. The exact same part number, OEM from Volkswagen for a Volkswagen. Have a guess how much less?
$600 less.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
$45.
Yeah.
Same part number, same manufacturer.
Geez, there's a bit of profit in the old Lambo one.
Yeah, well, you want to hear about profit? Some of the research led me to, I was looking at prices on some parts for Audi R8. First gen R8, the 4.2 V8. I was looking at mass airflow sensors. You can buy one for this particular car. They're $1,200 each to buy. There's 2 of them, which, from an Audi, you think that's probably not that ridiculous. It's a Bosch part. You look up the Bosch part number, and one of my local suppliers in Newcastle could have had it delivered to me that afternoon for $400. Oh. But get this, in the same research, I learnt that an inlet manifold for a V8 R8 is quite expensive.
Have a guess.
Have a guess.
It'll be, I don't know, a few $1,000s.
Try $23,000.
Oh, piss off.
Ex-Germany or somewhere, $23,000. I have a quote, a document with that price on it, and the retail is $25,000.
What's it? It's just made out of aluminium.
Yeah. You could scan one and 3D print one for a very small fraction of that, or modify one, or fabricate one, or CNC machine one, but $25,000.
I thought I was going to have one that was better than that, but I can't beat that.
I've got the. I asked them, can you please send me the quote, because this is.
I just had a woman reach out to me. She had a Subaru Outback, new Subaru Outback. She's driving up Mount Ousley or something. Truck comes the other way, rock, right? Breaks a windscreen. She takes it to Windscreen O'Brien. They put a Windscreens O'Brien screen on it, which the Subaru manual says you should never do. It won't recalibrate the eyesight. Right. So they say, we'll put a genuine Subaru screen on. She'll be right. Wait a couple of days, glue goes off. They smash the old one, the recently installed one out. They put the genuine Subaru one on, and it won't recalibrate. They say, take it to the Subaru dealer. They got better calibration hardware than us. Bob's your mother's brother. She takes it in there, and they say there's a fingerprint on the eyesight camera. That's why it's not recalibrating. We're not allowed to clean it. That'll be $9,600 to replace the camera.
What?
And I thought, the dealership's having a massive lend. So I contact Subaru and I say, is the dealership just, did I see a woman walk into the service department and say, that's the beers this Friday? And they got back to me with this kind of formal response that was like, safety is in our DNA and we can't possibly condone the cleaning of such an important component. It has to be replaced, blah, blah, blah. Like a $35,000 Zeiss Cinema Prime, you get a fingerprint on it, you get isopropyl alcohol and a, microfiber cloth and she's fixed.
Yeah.
How can that module be 20% of the price of the car?
And you know what's even more ridiculous on that exact Subaru thing? If you look at those eyesight cameras, there's a little sticker that says, I think it's like a picture of a thumbprint or something with a big line through it saying do not touch.
Yeah.
You can actually, even without taking the windscreen out, you can actually reach up between the front of that camera and the windscreen and touch that lens without taking the windscreen out. So
here's the other thing, right?
Does that mean your kid gets up with his little sausage fingers and touches your camera?
$10,000 mistake.
Wow.
Look at a GoPro, right? A GoPro's got a little disposable clip-on piece of glass on the front of the lens. So
that's
you drop
$9,000 though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You drop it off your mountain bike, you scratch it or something, you clip it off, clip a new one on, Bob's your mother's brother.
Yeah.
Like, that is a complete... I don't think that it's malicious, this kind of thing.
It's a design fail.
It is a design fail if you can't clean it, but it's also a sort of systematic fail where there's this whole juggernaut that says, okay, if we get a fingerprint on the lens, the rectification procedure is to change the camera module, and they don't talk to anyone about how much that's going to cost the customer. It just ends up being $9,600, which is like, why do they think the defibrillator is in the service department?
How about front bars on many new cars, packed with sensors and cameras? You can have the tiniest little car park run up the back of somebody, need a whole new front bar. There are cars that are getting written off on insurance because the cost of replacing the front bar is over $10,000.
And then they got to calibrate it, right?
Yeah, then they've got to calibrate everything else. So how's that for environmental friendliness? You then have to pretty much waste an entire car because the front bar has
What about the
damage.
mirror on a Land Cruiser with the 360 cameras in it? It's not a Land Cruiser that you're probably taking off road, right? $1,800.
Yeah, or you just get it clipped by some dude in an Uber Eats Vespa.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
How about Tesla front headlights? A mate of mine has a Model S. I think he's up to his third or fourth front headlight now. They're all failing $3,500 per headlight.
Yeah, wow.
Not under warranty anymore. $3,500 a headlight. Like, come on.
Yeah.
A premium badge does not mean a premium product. I think the car industry should be able to be seen like shoes. Louis Vuitton or Gucci sneakers are simply not better than Nikes or Adidas. In the same way, how many cars have we seen over the years now that's wearing some premium European badge and the leather's peeling off the dashboard and the door cards squeak and the buttons feel horrible and they're filled with oil leaks and whatnot?
Yep.
It's
Well,
just,
longevity is not anything that the premium car maker is interested in because they want you to sign up for their new car, own it for 2 to 3 years, trade it in, buy another one. And then it's the longevity of the leather, that's for the third owner to worry about.
Exactly.
Right?
But this is what annoys me is they know that their customer base, that car only really has to last until the end of the warranty period.
Getting a hybrid Camry that's a taxi
Yeah.
and it doesn't creak, right? And the seats are holding up okay.
Yeah.
So if you landed here from Alpha Centauri tomorrow and you were asked which one's the premium car, the S-Class or the Camry, you would conclude it's the Camry.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Again, viewers that might not have seen the video, we did an S-Class. It was one of my best mate's dad's cars. You know, north of $250,000, I think closer to the $300,000 mark. Leather's peeling off the dash. Like all the leather's going loose. As I said, the door cards squeak for $250,000. Apparently that's a premium product. It was great for the first 5 years. After that, not so much. This is a car that has a full and thorough service history from Mercedes-Benz. It's been detailed by Mercedes-Benz approved detailers, and the thing is falling to pieces.
Yeah, and mechanically speaking too, owners might assume they're getting a premium quality, engine full of premium components. Well, some of the premium brands have got some of the most unreliable engines. Things like timing chains failing and just
cooling systems.
Yeah, cooling
Ask any
systems.
tow truck driver what's paying for the kids' education, and it's not Japanese and South Korean cars.
No, and as a repair in the industry, the amount of cars I repair that are premium brands and European cars, let's just group them all together compared to some of the Japanese stuff. The difference is 5 to 1.
Yeah.
Look, the other thing about premium products, right, is that in the 80s, at the risk of labelling myself an emphatic old fart, right, in the 80s, I knew a a family who knew a real rich family, and they let their kid drive around in a 560 or 580 SEC, right? And this was miraculous to me because I'd only ever driven Tiranas and that, you know. That car had things that Fords and Holdens didn't have, right? And that made it a premium car. You could just tell it smelt premium. It was definitely different than a mainstream car. But today, mainstream cars have got adaptive cruise control and they've got mood lighting and they've got... because everything. The features are all off the shelf. You get them from Johnson Controls or TRW or something, and you just... car makers just say, yeah, we'll have 400,000 of them, you know? So how do premium brands differentiate themselves today? That's really difficult.
Marketing.
That's right.
Largely. Yeah.
It's by virtue of fashion type attributes as opposed to hard sort of component type attributes where the differentiation once was significant. Like safety used to be a real premium thing as well. It was safer to be in the Volvo, the Mercedes, whatever, engineered like no other car, blah, blah, blah. And today that's like engineered almost as well as something from Japan or South Korea.
Yeah. And you know what, like, if you are a hardcore fan of the particular brand, there's a Ferrari owner in New Zealand who clearly, from day one, he has been fascinated with Ferrari. Go bananas! Like, that's fantastic, and that's worthy. My worry, and I've seen friends go through this, because they're obsessed with luxury brand names, and they put themselves in horrendous financial positions, paying off cars that are depreciating like they've driven off a cliff, purely to have the brand name. That's not good.
Yeah, but you can buy a $20,000 watch, or I imagine you can buy a $20,000 pair of sunglasses if you want, right?
Yeah.
So this is just an extension of that.
Yeah.
Deluding yourself that they're better.
Or deluding yourself that you think having that premium thing in your garage is going to make your life better is not going to happen.
That's right. Everyone looks at you in a Ferrari, but what they don't tell you is that 2/3 of the people looking at you are thinking, what a wanker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or almost everyone isn't looking at you, they're looking at the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't recognised who's behind the wheel.
Yeah, no one cares.
Yeah, and by the time you drive past, they're back on their phone on Instagram. They've forgotten about you completely.
And the Ferrari.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you liked that half of the podcast, the other half is over on ReDriven's channel. There's a link in the description and you should head over there now and continue. 5
to 10 years' time, if that car's only been serviced 25,000 Ks, that engine is rooted.
They don't have a sticker on the window saying proudly made in Mexico or proudly made in Slovakia.
For you as an owner, you really do give a fundamental shit about its longevity.
Doing work for them, we actually got, these are their words, we're black banning you because you don't play the game.
The car company's only religion is money. The manufacturer doesn't want to know about a new car from the instant it gets sold.
Go buy the new EV or buy this new hybrid or buy this new car because it's better for the environment. Again, I just think hold on to the car that you currently own.
The one thing that's missing is any capacity for upgradability because the car industry doesn't want that. Special shout out on this one to Sam Rawlings, who you never see on camera. He's ReDriven's co-creator and producer. Sam did all of the heavy lifting, the tech stuff in the background for this podcast. And there's nothing to it, obviously, of course, except for the cameras, the lighting, the sound, the critical focus, the white balance, the composition, the reframing, and of course, cutting and posting the whole damn thing. Aside from that, Sam just kind of spent the entire podcast updating his OnlyFans and watching TikTok while we worked our asses off like the proper professionals we are. Dude, you've got no idea how liberating it is to rock up and not to have to give a crap about any of that tech stuff. I love your work, Sam, and thanks very much to ReDriven. Emerging from hypersleep in the fat cave, putting on pants for a change, and teleporting into a room full of Porsches at an undisclosed location. All impossibly uplifting stuff. Whip over to ReDriven now, dude, and show them some well-deserved subscriber love.